Black CEO in disguise was denied a room at his own hotel. 9 minutes later, he fired the entire staff. "Sir, you need to leave now before I call security." Jennifer Costa's voice cut through the lobby of the Grand Riverside Hotel like a razor. Her manicured fingers pointed to the revolving door. As the professional smile completely disappeared from her face, James Mitchell stood motionless in front of the Italian marble counter, his worn gray sweatshirt and scuffed sneakers clearly out of place with crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. At 11:34 p.m. on a Tuesday, the lobby was practically empty, except for an elderly couple watching the scene from the leather sofa in the back. 42 years old, an MBA from Harvard, and 3 companies built from scratch. James never imagined he would be kicked out of a luxury hotel in the heart of New York for wearing comfortable clothes after a 14-hour flight from Tokyo. "There's been a misunderstanding," James began calmly, placing his cell phone on the counter. "I have a confirmed reservation for the executive suite." "Of course you do," scoffed Kevin Morrison, the night manager. Approaching with long, authoritative strides, his navy blue suit was impeccable, as was his confidence as someone who had never been questioned in 3 years of managing that shift. "Let me guess, you won the lottery today?" Jennifer let out a stifled laugh behind her hand. At 26, she had worked in luxury hotels long enough to recognize who belonged in that environment and who didn't. And this man definitely didn't belong. "Our executive suite costs $1,800 a night," Kevin continued, crossing his arms over his chest. "It's not the kind of place that accepts meal vouchers or discount cards." The elderly couple on the sofa exchanged uncomfortable glances. The woman whispered something to her husband, who quickly looked away when James glanced in their direction 3 years ago. James had noticed something peculiar in the Grand River's quarterly reports. Online reviews had been consistently declining, especially comments from Black and Latino guests mentioning differential treatment and a hostile atmosphere. At the time, he had been too busy expanding his other ventures to investigate personally. 2 weeks ago, one review in particular caught his attention. "I was treated like a criminal for simply wearing jeans in the lobby. I'm never coming back." The author was a surgeon from Chicago yesterday. James canceled his VIP suite on behalf of the company and made a new reservation using only his personal name, without mentioning any corporate connections. Standard room with a simple view, prepaid with a personal credit card. Now, watching Kevin and Jennifer exchange knowing smiles, he understood perfectly what those reports really meant. "Can I see the reservation?" James asked, keeping his tone polite as he held out his cell phone again, showing the confirmation email. Kevin didn't even look at the screen. "Anyone can use Photoshop these days. Do you think we were born yesterday? Or stole someone's cell phone?" Jennifer added, typing frantically on the computer. "It happens all the time. People trying to impersonate others to get free rooms." James took a deep breath. His flight had been delayed 4 hours. He hadn't eaten since leaving the airport in Los Angeles, and in exactly 47 minutes, he would have a crucial video conference with investors in Singapore who could inject $50 million into his new tech startup. All he needed to do was check in, take a quick shower, and get ready for the most important meeting of the quarter. "Mr. Morrison," a female voice echoed from the side hallway. Amanda Walsh, customer service supervisor, approached with a tablet in her hands and a worried expression. "We need to talk about busy right now, Walsh." Kevin interrupted her without taking his eyes off James. Dealing with the situation here, Amanda stopped watching the scene. Her eyes widened slightly when she recognized James, but he gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Wait!" She hesitated, clearly torn between intervening and following hotel protocol, but ended up taking a few steps back, staying close enough to witness what was about to happen. "You know what I think?" Kevin circled the counter, positioning himself dangerously close to James. "I think you saw this hotel on social media. Figured you could pull a scam and get a free night, maybe even sue later for discrimination. Make some easy money, it's the new scheme," Jennifer agreed, shaking her head with faint concern. "I've seen it happen at other hotels. People playing the victim." The digital clock behind the counter read 11:39 p.m., 41 minutes until the video conference. James slowly placed his worn backpack on the floor. From that faded canvas bag, he pulled out a thin leather briefcase, completely out of place with the rest of his casual appearance. "Before you call security," James said calmly, opening the briefcase, "wouldn't you like to know who's trying to check in?" Kevin let out a loud laugh. "Let me guess. Are you a Nigerian prince? A famous rapper traveling incognito? Or better yet, an influencer trying to make a viral video?" "None of the above," James replied, removing a single document from the briefcase and placing it on the marble. "I'm just the idiot who paid $340 million for this property 8 months ago." The lobby fell completely silent. Jennifer blinked repeatedly. As if the words didn't make sense, Kevin froze mid-motion. his hand still suspended in the air from some unfinished gesture. On the document, the Riverside Hospitality Group letterhead gleamed under the lights. Purchase agreement, date, March 15th, 2025. Buyer, James Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Enterprises. Property, Grand Riverside Hotel, Manhattan. This can't be real, Jennifer stammered. But her voice came out shaky and thin. James remained silent, watching as recognition slowly dawned on the faces in front of him. There was no urgency in his movements, no anger in his expression, just the dangerous calm of someone who finally had all the cards on the table. And that calm was infinitely more frightening than any scream could ever be. If you're enjoying this story of justice and want to find out how an undercover CEO taught this arrogant team the most expensive lesson they've ever received, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because in the next few minutes, you're going to witness the kind of public demoralization that makes even the most confident question every choice they've ever made in their lives. And believe me, what Kevin and Jennifer don't know yet is that that document was just the beginning of a much more devastating revelation. Kevin took the document with trembling hands, turning it against the light as if looking for forged watermarks. His face had lost all that arrogant confidence, replaced by something between panic and disbelief. "This is fake," he declared, but his voice was too thin to be convincing. "Any printer can make letterhead? Do you think we're idiots?" Jennifer approached, examining the document over the manager's shoulder. Her eyes frantically scanned every line, every signature, every official stamp. "It has to be photoshopped," she muttered. "Or he stole it from some office." James watched the scene with the patience of someone who had faced skeptics his entire life. At 16, teachers said he would never make it to college. At 22, investors laughed when he proposed his first tech startup. At 30, competitors bet his company would go bankrupt in 6 months. Today at 42, James controlled a business portfolio valued at $1.2 billion. "I can call headquarters right now," Kevin announced, picking up the phone from the counter with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. "I'll confirm that this is a scam, and then we'll call the police for attempted fraud." "Please," James replied calmly. Gesturing toward the phone, "Call." Kevin hesitated. There was something about this man's absolute calmness that didn't fit the profile of a desperate con artist. Con artists sweat, stutter, try to run away when confronted. This man simply waited, as if time was the last resource he had left. "You know what I think?" Jennifer crossed her arms, her voice regaining some of its initial arrogance. "I think you're one of those activists who likes to cause trouble. You probably have a hidden cell phone recording everything to post on social media later." Kevin nodded vigorously, clinging to that theory like a shipwreck survivor to a piece of wood. "That's exactly it. One of those social testing schemes to make us look racist. I've seen several videos like that on YouTube." What neither of them realized was that the elderly couple on the couch had already been recording for 5 minutes. The woman discreetly held her iPhone, positioned between the pages of a magazine. Her husband, initially reluctant to get involved, now watched the scene with growing indignation. Amanda took another step forward. "Kevin, I really need to talk to you in private." "Not now, Walsh," Kevin snapped without looking at her. "Can't you see we're dealing with a serious situation here?" Amanda bit her lip, her eyes meeting James for a brief second. He made another almost imperceptible gesture. "Not yet." James had learned something fundamental over 25 years of building companies. Let people reveal who they really are. Don't interrupt an enemy when he's making a mistake. And above all, document absolutely everything. "You want to know what I really think?" Kevin leaned over the counter, deliberately invading James's personal space. His cold coffee breath was almost aggressive. "I think you're just another one who thinks the world owes you something. That you can walk around demanding special treatment just because—" "Well, you know," Jennifer let out a short, bitter laugh. "It's always the same story. They try to play the discrimination card to get things for free." James kept his expression neutral, but mentally recorded every word, every gesture, every micro-expression of contempt. In his mind, he could already visualize these same people sitting in the corporate human resources room, repeatedly watching the recording of this conversation as their employment contracts were terminated. "Are you done?" James asked softly. "No, we're not done yet," Kevin replied. His courage growing with every second, James remained calm. "I want you to understand something very clearly. This hotel has standards. Standards that have been in place for 47 years since we opened our doors. It's not just anyone who can come in here and call the shots." James finished the sentence. "It's not just anyone who calls the shots here. Is that what you were trying to say?" Kevin blinked rapidly, realizing too late how his words sounded. "Don't put words in my mouth. I meant that we have protocols, procedures, protocols that apparently only apply to certain types of guests," James observed, his voice still annoyingly calm. Tell me, do you ask for additional documentation from all guests? Or only from those who don't look like what you consider appropriate for this establishment? Jennifer opened her mouth to respond, but Amanda finally exploded. Enough! Her voice cut through the lobby like a whip. Kevin, this conversation is over now. Immediately, Kevin turned furious. Walsh, you're one step away from being suspended for insubordination. Suspended? Amanda let out a humorless laugh. You really don't understand what's going on here, do you? James's phone vibrated. Message from his assistant in Singapore. Investors ready in 35 minutes. Final presentation uploaded. Everything okay there? James typed a quick reply. Small delay, I'll be ready. Small delay? As if being barred from entering his own hotel, accused of fraud, and treated like a criminal was just a minor inconvenience in his schedule. Kevin grabbed his personal cell phone. You know what? I'm going to call our regional director. Let's settle this once and for all. Excellent idea, James agreed. Ask specifically about the March transaction. Ask who signed the papers. Ask how much was paid. There was something about the specificity of those instructions that made Kevin hesitate again. His finger hovered over the phone screen. Unable to complete the call, Jennifer filled the silence. Even if you somehow stole real documents, that doesn't change the fact that you are dressed completely inappropriately for a hotel of this caliber. We have a dress code, you know. Funny, James replied. I didn't see any dress code written on the website when I made the reservation. And I assure you that I read all the terms and conditions very carefully, because he himself had personally approved those terms 6 months ago when his legal team finalized the acquisition. The digital clock read 11:47 p.m. 33 minutes until Singapore on the sofa. The elderly woman whispered to her husband, We need to do something, Harold. Harold, who had remained silent throughout the confrontation, finally stood up. His 74 years weighed heavily on his joints, but there was a firmness in his steps as he walked toward the counter. Excuse me. His voice was surprisingly authoritative for someone so frail. I am Harold Peaton. My wife and I have been diamond members of this hotel for 15 years. And frankly, I am disgusted by what I am witnessing. Kevin and Jennifer turned simultaneously, their expressions instantly changing to fake professionalism. Mr. Peaton, Kevin hurriedly said, you don't need to worry. We're just following security protocols. Protocols? Harold interrupted. Protocols that involve stepping on a guest's credit card. Fraud charges without any proper investigation. Thinly veiled insults based on appearance. His wife Dorothy joined him, holding her cell phone with the screen facing down. We recorded everything for the last 6 minutes. And we've already sent it to our daughter, who happens to be a civil rights attorney. Kevin's face visibly paled. James watched the scene unfold, allowing himself the slightest of smiles. He hadn't planned on having allies among the guests, but he also hadn't underestimated the ability of decent people to recognize injustice when they saw it. Look, Jennifer tried a different approach, her voice suddenly sweet. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot. Why don't we do this? You give us a valid confirmation number. I already did. James pointed to his cell phone still on the counter. 3 times you refused to look. Every word was true, and everyone knew it. Kevin finally completed the call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th ring, a sleepy receptionist answered. Good evening. This is the Grand Riverside, Manhattan location. I need to confirm some information about corporate property. As Kevin spoke, James discreetly opened the recording app on his phone. For the past 15 minutes, he had captured crystal clear audio of every insult, every accusation, every display of thinly veiled prejudice. This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. It was about exposing a systemic problem that he knew existed, but needed to document personally. It was about ensuring that the next black person who walked into that lobby, hoodie or not, would be treated with the basic dignity every human being deserved. It was about real, permanent, documented change. Kevin hung up the phone. His face was completely white now. So, Jennifer pressed, what did they say? Kevin looked at James, then at Amanda, then back at James. When he finally spoke, his voice came out as a hoarse whisper. She said the new owner completed the acquisition in March. She said he was doing unannounced on-site audits of all the properties. She said, What, Kevin? Amanda asked, even though she already knew the answer. She said he should be arriving in New York this week. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the air conditioning seemed to have stopped working. James checked his watch, 11:51 p.m. 29 minutes until Singapore. Enough time for what he needed to do. Now, he said calmly. Let's discuss exactly what happens when employees treat the owner of a $340 million property like a common criminal. And believe me, you're going to want to pay close attention to this part, because what Kevin and Jennifer still didn't understand was that every insult uttered, Every accusation made, every moment of disrespect shown had not only been captured on video, it had been carefully cataloged, time-stamped, and was being synchronized in real time with corporate servers. And somewhere in the Mitchell Enterprises headquarters, an automated compliance system had already detected keywords in the recording and triggered alerts to the legal department. The termination process was already in motion before Kevin even hung up that phone. He just didn't know it yet, Kevin. Amanda took a deep breath, her voice cutting through the tense silence. This man is James Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Enterprises. He's owned this property since March. Kevin let out a nervous laugh, but it came out too weak to convince anyone. Walsh, you're delusional. Look at him, look at how he's dressed. Do you really think I know exactly who he is because I received a corporate email 3 days ago? Amanda interrupted, grabbing her tablet, alerting us that surprise audits would be conducted in person by the new owner in all units. Audits focused specifically on discriminatory treatment of guests. The color drained completely from Jennifer's face. You're lying to protect him, Kevin accused. But his voice trembled. This is some kind of ridiculous loyalty test. James checked his watch, 11:53 p.m. 27 minutes to Singapore, more than enough time? Mr. Mitchell, Harold approached, extending his frail but firm hand. Harold Peaton. My wife Dorothy and I witnessed everything. And we documented everything. He waved his cell phone. 6 minutes and 40 seconds of clear video with crystal clear audio. Dorothy joined her husband. I've already sent copies to our lawyer daughter, to our personal cloud account, and frankly, I'm tempted to post it on social media right now. James waved gently. I appreciate your support, Mr. and Mrs. Peaton, but it won't be necessary. I have everything documented. He opened his cell phone, showing the recording app that had captured the last 17 minutes. Every insult, every accusation, every display of prejudice was time-stamped and synchronized with corporate servers. That's illegal, Jennifer shouted. You can't record without consent. New York is a one-party consent state, James replied calmly. I can legally record any conversation I'm a part of. And considering this is my property, I also have a legal right to monitor employee interactions with guests. Kevin tried one last desperate gambit. Even if you are who you say you are, we haven't done anything wrong. We followed standard security protocols. Protocols, James interrupted softly, that you did not apply to the Peatons when they checked in 2 hours ago wearing casual travel clothes. Protocols that were not applied to the white executive who arrived yesterday in shorts and flip-flops after a flight from California. He swiped to another screen on his phone. I have full access to the system logs. I can see every check-in made this week, and I can see exactly which guests were asked for additional documentation versus those who were processed immediately. The pattern was undeniable and devastating. Amanda stepped forward. Mr. Mitchell, I tried to alert Kevin 3 times in the last few weeks about the differential treatment. I documented everything according to the corporate compliance manual. James nodded. I've seen your reports, Amanda. I appreciate your diligence. He turned to Kevin and Jennifer. You have 30 seconds to make a decision. Immediate resignation with neutral references, or termination for cause with this incident permanently on record. Kevin opened his mouth, then closed it. His eyes darted frantically around the lobby as if searching for an exit that didn't exist. Jennifer began to cry silently. 2 seconds, James announced, his voice still as calm as glass. What neither of them realized was that while they were negotiating their professional fates, Mitchell Enterprises' automated corporate compliance system had already detected keywords in the recording and triggered alerts to human resources, legal, and public relations. The consequences machine was already in motion. The only question now was how much control Kevin and Jennifer would have over their own exit narrative. And from the look on their faces, James knew they finally understood the magnitude of the mistake they had made. Because in the next few minutes, they would learn that discrimination doesn't just have moral costs. It has financial, professional, and permanent costs that would follow them for much longer than they ever imagined. 10 seconds, James announced. Kevin ripped off his badge with trembling hands, throwing it onto the marble with enough force to make a noise. I quit, Happy. Jennifer followed immediately, her eyes red from crying. Me too. Just don't tell anyone, please. James picked up both badges, examining them briefly before putting them in his pocket. Too late for that. He turned his laptop around, showing the screen for everyone to see. It was the Mitchell Enterprises internal human resources portal. On the screen, 2 red notifications flashed. Compliance alert triggered, discrimination incident detected, automatic protocol initiated. What is this? Jennifer stammered. Our compliance system, James explained calmly. When certain keywords are detected in recordings on company property, the protocol is automatically triggered. The recordings are sent to human resources, legal and public relations simultaneously. Kevin felt his legs buckle. You can't do that. We resigned. You said you would. I said I would give neutral references, James corrected. And I will. But I can't undo what has already been documented and archived in the corporate systems. This process began 12 minutes ago when the system detected the first violations. Dorothy Peaton stepped forward. Her cell phone still recording. Young man, you talked about security protocols and following procedures. How many other guests have been treated this way? Amanda approached the computer. Accessing the records, in the last 6 months, I've documented 23 similar incidents involving Kevin, 19 involving Jennifer. They all followed the same pattern. Black or Latino guests being questioned about their ability to pay, extra documentation requested, hostile treatment not applied to white guests. You're making this up, Kevin accused weakly. I'm reading directly from the reports I sent to corporate compliance. Amanda replied, reports that you, Kevin, completely ignored. Reports that are now part of a formal investigation. James's phone vibrated. Message from the legal team. Recordings received. Clear violations of anti-discrimination policy confirmed. Formal disciplinary proceedings initiated. Press being proactively notified. Harold waved his own cell phone. My daughter just informed me that 3 civil rights law firms have already contacted her. Offering pro bono representation if you want to sue the hotel. Sue? Kevin nearly shouted. He's the owner. You can't sue the owner. No, James corrected gently. But you can be sued personally for damage to corporate reputation. And from what my legal team just informed me, that's exactly what they're considering. Jennifer collapsed into a nearby chair, sobbing openly. Oh my God, I'm going to be sued. I'm going to lose everything. You already have, James said, but his voice carried more sadness than anger. You lost the moment you chose to judge a human being by the color of their skin and their appearance. The clock read 11:58 p.m., 2 minutes until Singapore. Kevin tried one last desperate plea. Mr. Mitchell, please. I have children. I have bills. If this gets out, I'll never get a job in hospitality again. You should have thought of that, Harold interrupted coldly, before stepping on a guest's credit card and calling him a fraudster. Amanda handed James an envelope. Complete report of all documented violations. All the guests who complained asked to be contacted if legal action was taken. That's 41 potential witnesses. James opened the envelope, leafing through it quickly. Each page represented a story similar to his. Each report and indignity suffered in silence by people who just wanted to be treated with basic dignity. You know what saddens me the most? James closed the envelope. It's not the discrimination itself, because unfortunately that happens. It's the confidence with which you did it. The absolute certainty that there would never be any consequences. Jennifer's phone rang. It was her sister, who had seen the Peaton videos circulating in hotel employee groups. The news was already spreading. While Kevin and Jennifer gathered their personal belongings, James finally checked in. Amanda processed everything in 45 seconds, handing him the keycard to the executive suite that had always been his by right. Your video conference, Mr. Mitchell? Amanda reminded him gently. You still have a minute, James nodded, grabbed his worn backpack and walked toward the elevators. Before the doors closed, he turned one last time. Kevin and Jennifer crossed the lobby for the last time as employees. Their careers in luxury hospitality had ended in less than 20 minutes. And as the elevator doors closed, James thought about the question that would echo for weeks. How many other Kevins and Jennifers were still in his 847 hotels around the world, treating guests with the same contempt, protected by the certainty that they would never be held accountable? Because the real reform he was about to implement wasn't just about punishing 2 discriminatory employees. It was about completely transforming the culture of an entire industry that had for too long allowed appearances to determine dignity. And in the coming hours, as Kevin and Jennifer discovered the true cost of their choices, James would initiate changes that would ensure that no other guest would ever feel the humiliation again. 3 months later, James was standing in the same lobby of the Grand Riverside. But everything had changed. The Guest Dignity Initiative system was implemented in all 847 Mitchell Enterprises properties globally. QR codes allowed instant reports that went directly to external auditors. Cameras with audio protected guests and employees. Monthly training was mandatory. Amanda had been promoted to regional manager, overseeing cultural reforms at 23 hotels. Her first act was to hire 3 external auditors specializing in discrimination for surprise quarterly reviews. The Patans returned to the hotel the following month and were greeted with reverence. Dorothy posted a 5-star review, finally. A hotel that understands that dignity is priceless. Kevin Morrison never got another job in luxury hospitality. His dismissal for discrimination appeared on every background check. His last record, night manager at a roadside motel 3 states away, earning a third of his previous salary. Jennifer Costa changed careers completely, now working in telemarketing. Friends commented on how she avoided talking about her time in hotels, her face turning pale whenever the subject came up. The Grand Riverside was completely transformed. Ratings rose to 4.8 stars. Discrimination complaints 0 in 90 days. Revenue increased by 41%. The story became a case study at Harvard Business School on corporate cultural reform. On that particular night, 3 months after the incident, James watched new employees undergoing intensive training. A young black receptionist hired the week before greeted each guest with genuine warmth, regardless of appearance. "It works," Amanda commented beside him. "Real change is possible." James nodded. The video conference with Singapore on that fateful night had yielded the 50 million. His empire was growing, but nothing surpassed seeing people treated with basic dignity on his own properties. Harold Peaton sent a handwritten letter. "You didn't just defend your own dignity. You protected that of thousands who will come after you." Discrimination still happened daily in commercial establishments across the country. But every time someone was treated with disrespect based on appearance, the Mitchell Enterprises system proved that systemic change was not only possible, it was profitable. James's true revenge was not to destroy 2 careers. It was to build a system where no other Kevin or Jennifer could thrive by discriminating. It was to transform 847 properties into spaces where appearance would never determine dignity. Because in the end, the best response to prejudice is not simply to punish the guilty. It is to completely rebuild the system that allowed them to thrive, ensuring that the next generation never has to choose between dignity and accommodation. If this story of transformation and real justice has touched you, share it with someone who needs to understand that systemic change begins with people who refuse to accept indignity as normal. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that when we choose responsibility over excuses, we build the world our children deserve to inherit. 3 years later, Kevin still obsessively checked news about James Mitchell, witnessing every new success, every property acquired, every corporate diversity award. The cost of 20 minutes of confident prejudice continued to charge interest that would never stop growing. And somewhere another black guest entered another Mitchell lobby, wearing simple clothes after a long flight, being greeted with a respect that should always have been universal.